Janelle was broke. No money, no luck, no way out. She was 24, living in a trailer on the edge of town, juggling 2 dead-end jobs and drowning in medical bills for her sick mother. Life had chewed her up, and it wasn't done yet. Then he showed up, a stranger, 60 years old, ex-FBI. He walked into the diner one night, sat at the back booth, ordered a black coffee, and watched her. Not in a creepy way, more like he already knew her. The next day, he left a note with her name on it. By the end of the week, Janelle was wearing a wedding ring. But here's the kicker. 3 days into that marriage, she found out who he really was and why he chose her. Not for love, not for companionship, but for something far darker. Let me ask you something. What would you do if a government man, a man trained to lie, spy, and disappear, asked you to marry him, no questions asked? Would you trust him? Or would you run and never look back? Because Janelle didn't run. And that's when the real nightmare began. If this story already has you on edge, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Would you marry an ex-FBI agent with secrets? Stick around. The truth Janelle uncovers will chill you to the bone. Janelle didn't come from much. She was 24 years old, born and raised in a dying town just outside Columbia, South Carolina, the kind of place where dreams dried up faster than the summer grass. Her days started before sunrise and ended long after midnight, working back-to-back shifts at the Waffle Stop and a rundown motel just off the highway. She didn't complain, not once, because her mother, the only family she had left, was battling Parkinson's, and Janelle was the only thing standing between her and a hospital bed the state wouldn't pay for. But it was getting harder. The bills kept piling up, and her old car coughed like it was dying every time she turned the key. Janelle was strong, but even the strong bend when life doesn't let up. And then, something strange happened. It was a Friday, late afternoon. She was loading groceries into her car behind the Save More Market when 2 men cornered her. Strangers, aggressive, demanding her purse. Her hands were shaking as she tried to back away, but they got closer. That's when he appeared, like a ghost in broad daylight. A tall, older man stepped out from a black pickup truck and said one word: "Enough." His voice was calm, but it carried weight. The men paused. Something in his stance, maybe the way he didn't flinch, made them rethink. They left without another word. That man was Robert Mitchell. He was 60, retired FBI. A man with stories he never told and medals he never displayed. He lived alone in a cedarwood cabin nestled near the tree line outside town, a place even the locals forgot existed. Folks said he'd been married once, long ago, but she died, and he never spoke of her again. That night, he left a small folded note on the windshield of Janelle's car. Inside, it read, "You don't know me, but I know enough. If you want safety, come find me." And that's how it began, not with love, not with roses, but with a warning and a mystery. It was on the 3rd time they met that Robert made the proposal. Not a dinner date, not flowers, not even a soft-spoken confession. A proposal, plain and direct. He invited Janelle to his cabin. It was just past dusk. The fire in the stone hearth crackled softly. The smell of pine wood and old books filled the air. He poured her tea, sat across the table, and looked at her with eyes that had seen too much. Then he said it. "I want to marry you." Janelle blinked. "Excuse me?" He repeated, steady as stone. "I want to marry you, not for love, not for romance, but for protection, yours." She almost laughed, thinking it was a joke. But Robert didn't smile. He continued, "You're in danger, and I can't help you unless you're legally tied to me. The people who hurt your father, they haven't forgotten, and now they're watching you." Janelle's heart dropped. She hadn't heard that name, her father, in years. He was gone before she turned 10. All she knew was he worked for the government, then disappeared without a trace. She stared at the older man across the firelight. He had the bearing of someone who'd lived through war and silence, and he was offering her safety, stability, legal power, money, a new identity, a new life. And her mother could finally get the care she needed. But then, that feeling, that quiet twist in her gut, that cold voice inside that said, something's off, something's wrong. Her mind said yes, her heart said maybe, but her instincts whispered, run. And that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes, your gut knows the truth long before your brain can explain it. Let me ask you, folks watching this right now, have you ever been offered something that looked like a blessing but felt like a trap? Would you take the deal, or would you walk away and always wonder what might have happened if you said yes? 3 days into the marriage, something started to feel off. It wasn't anything Janelle could put her finger on at first. Robert had kept his word. He was polite, respectful, distant. There were no romantic gestures, no late-night conversations, no pressure. It was, just as he said, a legal agreement. But it was also something else, something colder. The house itself felt strange. Big, yes. It was a beautiful cedarwood cabin tucked away in the forest. But it wasn't cozy. It felt like a place people once lived and left in a hurry. One hallway was always dim, certain doors were always locked, and one in particular, the door at the end of the west corridor, Robert told her never to open. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He just said, "That room's not for you, ever." The way he said it made her skin crawl. That same night, Janelle woke to a faint tapping, soft, rhythmic, like a slow knock against wood. It was coming from inside the walls. Not the front door, not the floorboards, the walls. She pressed her ear to the panel. Nothing. But when she pulled away, she could have sworn she heard someone whisper her name. The next evening, she saw him. Robert, out back, standing just past the tree line in the dark, talking to no one. His hands gestured like he was explaining something, his voice low, firm, like giving orders. But there was nobody else there. And always that box, a small, weathered wooden box he kept on him at all times. When she asked about it, he changed the subject. When she reached for it once, just curious, he gripped her wrist harder than he meant to. His eyes weren't angry. They were afraid. That's when the question hit her. Was Robert truly protecting her, or protecting something from her? And let me ask you this. If someone said they'd protect you, but started acting like you were the threat, would you stay? Or would you dig deeper, even if it meant uncovering something you might never unsee? Because Janelle started digging, and what she found would make her wish she hadn't. On the third night, she couldn't take it anymore. The locked room, the whispers in the walls, the way Robert would disappear for hours and return without a word. Something inside Janelle told her the truth was there, behind that forbidden door at the end of the hallway. So, at 2:11 a.m., with nothing but a flashlight and a pounding heart, she crept through the house. Every floorboard groaned like it was warning her to turn back. But she didn't. The door wasn't locked this time. She pushed it open, and the air changed. Inside, the room felt colder, still, like time had stopped. Against the far wall was a corkboard stretching nearly the length of the room, covered in documents, photographs, yellowing notes, dozens of images pinned neatly in rows. Her face, Janelle as a child in the park, at a high school basketball game, leaving her shift at the diner. Some pictures were taken years apart, different towns, different lives, but always her. Her hands trembled as she reached for the nearest photo. On the back, a handwritten date, July 19th, 2011, subject still unaware. And then she found it. A sealed envelope, never sent, addressed in Robert's handwriting. If this operation fails, protect Janelle at all costs. She can never know who she really is. Not until it's too late. She dropped the envelope. The words echoed in her mind like thunder. Who she really is. She turned. And that's when she saw the file. A manila folder marked Classified. Project Echo. Agent Calvin Reeves. Inside was a photo of a man who looked hauntingly familiar. Her father. The documents told the rest. He was a deep-cover federal agent. Assassinated during a covert operation involving a rogue intelligence unit. They feared he passed something on. Something genetic. Something dangerous. And that something was her. Janelle stumbled back. Her knees gave way. Everything spun. The man she just married wasn't just a stranger. He had known her since she was a child, watched her, followed her. And now, he was the last person standing between her and a truth buried by the government itself. So tell me, folks, what would you do if your whole life was a lie, and the person you trusted most had been keeping that lie alive? Because for Janelle, the question wasn't just, who am I? It was now, why have they been watching me my whole life? She waited until morning to confront him. The sun had barely touched the treetops when Janelle stood in the kitchen, clutching the file in her hands, the one with her father's name. Robert walked in like any other day, quiet, carrying a mug of black coffee. But this morning, she didn't let him settle. Her voice cut through the silence like a blade. Did you marry me to protect me, or to watch me? He froze. His eyes met hers. Not startled, not angry, just tired. Both, he said. At first, it was an order. You were designated at risk, and I was the only one left from the old team who still cared what happened next. She narrowed her gaze. But you knew my father. You lied to me. I didn't lie, he said quietly. I just didn't tell you everything. I owed him more than that. More than I gave. He died thinking the people he trusted would take care of his daughter. I failed him once. I couldn't do it again. Janelle's chest rose and fell. Her mind raced with years of unanswered questions. Her lonely childhood, the unexplained moves, the strangers who always seemed to know her name. All of it, orchestrated? Her voice cracked. So what now? You keep me here like some protected asset? Or do I finally get to live my own life? Robert set down his mug. That's not up to me anymore. It's your call. But just know this. If you walk away now, they will come back. And next time, I won't be there. She stared at him. This man who had watched her grow up through a file, who claimed to love her father, who said he was sorry, but had robbed her of a real, honest life. And now she had a choice. To stay and accept a life built on secrets, or to walk away and face the truth on her own. And if it were you, could you forgive someone who protected you by betraying you? Would you choose security or freedom? She didn't walk away. Not after everything she'd discovered. Not after all the lies, the truths, the shadows between them. Janelle could have left and never looked back. But she didn't. Instead, she did something far braver. She stayed, on her terms. The next morning, she stood on the back porch of the cabin, wrapped in an old flannel sweater, hair tied back, eyes clearer than they'd been in years. The trees swayed gently behind her, whispering like they'd been watching the whole story unfold. Robert joined her, a cautious look in his eyes. I'm not a child anymore, she said, her voice steady. I don't need to be protected. I need to be prepared. He gave her a quiet nod. He didn't try to convince her. He didn't apologize again. He simply said, then let's begin. They spent the next few days walking the land, learning the terrain. She memorized every path, every turn, every landmark. He showed her how to read maps, track weather, manage supplies. He taught her how to notice things. Subtle shifts in movement, the way people speak when they're lying, how to trust your instincts when the facts are blurry. And slowly, she changed. She stopped flinching at every creak in the house. She stopped second-guessing herself. Her walk grew steadier, her gaze sharper. She started to reclaim the parts of her life that had been stolen. One afternoon, they sat quietly in the garden. No more lessons, just silence. And for the first time, Janelle didn't feel like a target or a secret. She felt like a person. And maybe that was enough. Because sometimes you don't get to rewrite the past, but you can decide how the next chapter begins. Let me ask you something. Have you ever faced something that tried to define you and said, "Not anymore"? Have you ever chosen growth, even when forgiveness felt impossible? If Janelle's story touched something in you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more true stories with heart, and share your reflections in the comments below. Because stories heal, and you never know who needs to hear this one tonight.